This week on the podcast, if you know you should have changed accountants years ago, but the pain has just felt too much, listen to this episode. It'll unlock everything. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6- and 7-figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancock, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow, and grow your business. You just looked at me like I'm some sort of absolute psychopath, didn't you, Claire, as I shut the door into this little room with only me in it. So what is it about printers being so big? I'm just changing the ink in our printer at home. And do you not think it's a bit mad that everything in the world seems to have got smaller except for printers?
Well, Simon, this is where you're just not up to date with the technology, because you can get these little...
For £30. Don't forget, that's my budget.
You can get these tube printers, which are almost like...
The tube.
Imagine a fluorescent light that's the size of a piece of A4. It's that kind of thing. And it literally just pulls a piece of paper through it, but they work on some sort of special heat ink technology, and they're quite expensive.
How much is quite expensive? Would it change my life? Do you think we're moving away from printing completely anyway?
No.
Why?
Well, we have a printer, and I actually pay per page printed in the office, and I think we print about 5 to 10 pages a month. What happened to my voice there?
That's what I said. So I said, do you think we're moving away from printing? That sounds like the answer is yes. 5 to 10 pages a month. It's almost eradicated. Yeah. I bet if I looked at those 5-10 pages, I bet they're not required to be printed out.
No, they're all podcast notes and nothing else. Is the only thing we print.
We could actually have these on the screen in front of us. Now I come to think of it, why do we print these out every week?
You make us so that I can't sit here with my laptop on video.
Oh,
that's what you said.
That's true, because you can't see that. Anyway, should we find out what's been going on in this week's news story of the week? So this week, Claire, did you know there's a sweet spot for AI usage, and it's probably a lot less than you think? So this is a study that's come out by a company called Midjourney, an AI productivity study. So we've covered quite a lot about AI and how they believe that some of the productivity and some of the ROI is not as good as, or companies are finding it harder to demonstrate the ROI. This particular study also looked at productivity, and it looked at this is really weird, 1,111 companies and 160,000 plus employees. And the data revealed something counterintuitive, that there's actually an optimal use for AI, and it's not about looping your AI into every single conversation. So what do you think the sweet spot is?
I think it depends entirely on what your job is, right?
Yeah, I guess so. So I guess that this is, by the time they've taken all these various companies and all these employees, they're obviously coming to an average. Because if you're a coder, you're just going to live on it, aren't you? Basically, it's doing your job for you most times. So I guess there is a productivity bit when using it 90% of the time probably is better.
When I'm in FD mode, particularly if I'm working in Excel, I use it heavily. So what I have found is that I've actually this week I've worked on 3 forecasts of various kinds for funding applications and things like that. And in all of them, I've started with asking AI to generate the forecast for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's absolute crap. The numbers that it just spits out, it's I can open it with my experience of looking at accounts and just say, there is absolutely no way on this earth that these numbers are correct. And you can challenge the assumptions, and I go back and I say, you sure about this number? You sure about this? This doesn't make sense. But it just keeps churning out more and more crap. What I have found it's really good at, though, is doing the legwork of creating a template that I can then go and plug the numbers into. So where I've got really shit hot with it now is I don't ask it to create the forecast. I just say, can you create me a dummy forecast? But I'm more interested in the layout, how I should be presenting this, thinking about making sure that there's the information in there that's easy for me to understand the assumptions as a detail accountant style person, but then also a snapshot for the business owner. That's what it's really, really good at, is doing the legwork of building something.
The display aspect.
I then go and key the correct numbers into.
I think that's the same use case as the key that I find with AI, where it's 100% better than a human, is that it's able to take complex information, break it down, and train and coach a human in a way that another human just can't do unless they're so skillful. It's brilliant.
No, see, I also
this
think...
week when we did the coding on your app, we just followed the step-by-step guide, and it was just perfect.
So what Simon's talking about is we've been building a client portal to replace all of the Excel spreadsheets and sort of manual reports that we're creating on a monthly basis. We're moving everything into a portal. And it took me almost a day of going backwards and forwards with Claude just to get the architecture right.
Yeah.
And I think that I've built software before many times. We've built our own app that we're now selling, but in prior jobs as well, I've built bespoke software for finance features. And so I would say I'm definitely not an expert at it, but I'm probably more expert than the vast majority of people. And building that architecture, even when we got to doing the coding and like actually doing it fundamentally, there were bits that were missing, whole screens, whole sections, whole workflows that hadn't been considered. And that I spent a whole day going backwards and forwards with Claude. So I think, as with anything, AI is only as good as what you put into it, and therefore refining your skill. I think generally if you're quite a detailed thinker and you can think about second, third, fourth, fifth consequences of things, then you'll be good at this. And if you're good at communicating, because it's just
communicating language.
Yeah, it's
English
like
language.
giving a direction to a team member, isn't it? If you can't do that, you're probably not going to be able to communicate very well with AI either.
This is where it's absolutely mental though, isn't it? Because, we built that application and the reports and everything through that, and there must be hundreds of thousands of lines of code that's been written, and we couldn't write a single line of code ourselves. We don't know how to do that.
Well, that isn't true though.
Interesting.
Because the original build was done in AI, but I've then had to debug, to fix, to
you've not physically debugged. You've not read the code, known how to change the code. You don't speak that language.
I do. I can read HTML. I've done HTML coding before. So from that perspective, I have had to debug certain things because, for example, it will say like open the source code and find this and change it. And it's like if you don't understand the order and the structure and where to look, it's not very easy. So
I guess the argument is that then it did 99.99999%.
It did 95% of it.
Today's the worst it's ever going to be. So it's going to be fine. Like in future, you won't even need to have that knowledge of being able to debug and various other things.
Yeah, look, I think the point is back to the news story. This last week, I've been in FD mode doing analysis and sort of forecasts and things like that. It's been invaluable. I'd say it's probably been 50% of my day. And I've been working on the portal. So again, it's probably been 50% of that task as well. Outside of that, the only other thing that I'm really doing is one-to-ones with teams, and I've got it turned on in the background recording what I'm doing so that we've got all the minutes there, and emails with people, like communication on LinkedIn, email, WhatsApp. And again, I use it for all of that kind of stuff as well. So from my perspective, I think I don't think there's a single task that I've done this week that hasn't been AI supported. And I would say it's probably 50% of my day using it.
And it's probably because, you're a business owner, so you probably sit in a position where you're going to get more productivity gains than other people further down the chain, so to speak. So they've said the sweet spot is employees who spent between 7 and 10% of their working hours using AI tools. They had a productivity rate of 95%, which is higher than both non-adopters and super users. So that's roughly...
What does that mean?
50,
a productivity rate?
Productivity rate is basically, if their optimum output was 100%, they're at 95% productivity. So they're only 5% unproductive versus obviously the non-adopters and the super users. So obviously on either side of that spectrum, the other two are lower productivity rates. So they're actually saying that once they looked at the people that went above that 50 minutes a day that they were spending using AI, actually that productivity rate started to drop. So it's an interesting one. But they said that the problem that they faced, which is really interesting, is that only 3% of the people that they studied actually landed in that sweet spot, which is interesting, isn't it?
Where I find AI most powerful is when you know what you're going to do. So you know very clearly what your task is and what the outcome is. So for example, I want to produce a forecast for, or I've done some work this morning. I put one of our companies from one accounting software onto Xero. And so I have a very clear output that I'm expecting from. We're using Claude mostly at the moment. So I've got a very clear output, and that's a lot easier to use AI for. Where it becomes a little bit vague is that I've got an idea, or I'm thinking about this, I'm not sure about this, give me some ideas on that. And that is where you can go down a rabbit hole and just lose hours.
And I think I can see this already happening with lots of the AI apps. And if you think back 20 years ago, like I was having this conversation with somebody this week about productivity, and I said that don't count your chickens, because for those super users like me and you, which are tiny percentages, we feel like our productivity has gone 10x, right? That's fair to say. We feel like we've achieved 10 times. But don't forget that 99% of people, we said this about social media, and yes, for the people like me and you that use social media as a producer, it's grown our businesses, it's got our message out there, it's done all that. But 99% of people have just eaten up 5 hours of their day on social media that never existed.
Yeah, that is
so
true.
don't forget in totally unproductive things. So I think we're going to see the same with AI, where people like me and you and other business owners will probably be highly productive with it, but 99% of people will be putting themselves into a Barbie doll box.
I mean, look, I think the closing point here that it says is that active tracks data suggests that employees who refuse to try AI are undoubtedly falling behind.
You've got
but it's like, come on, the type of people, if we think about the type of person that is that is refusing to trial AI, they're not open to new things. They're not open to normally feedback and different ways of working and stuff like that. So they're probably likely to be a highly unproductive employee anyway. Yeah. So from that perspective, I think some of these, the people that are likely to be early adopters are people that are very open to new things, very open to working quickly and being better and continuous improvement and all of those types of things. So there is no doubt a correlation between that and people that tend to get ahead in life.
100%. Brilliant. Right. No doubt that the news stories will be filled with AI for the foreseeable future as well, because I don't see that anyone's talking about much else. And it is a frightening space to follow at the moment. Frighteningly exciting, but also frighteningly scary. So let's move on to this week's deep dive. So this week, Claire, a fantastic and interesting conversation we're going to have about changing accountants. And the reason we want to talk about this week is because it's probably one of the biggest barriers when people get to the point where they've actually they felt the pain of what they're currently not getting. They've understood the feeling that they've outgrown their current accountant, but they're at that final stage and something's blocking them. And it's usually the fear, isn't it, of like the unknown and the not knowing what that looks like. So what we're going to do today is you're going to break down all of that from the fear all the way through to the process and explain what that looks like, even if you're a 7-figure business, aren't you?
Yes.
Great. Where are we going to start then, Claire? You're going to start with section 1?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, it's like, why do owners think this so hard? And the reason why, I'm just going to frame this a little bit. The reason why we're talking about this today is because, obviously we are an accountancy firm. And when clients are on board with us, this is often something that they can be quite nervous about. And pretty much everybody says, how do I do this? How do I do that? So we're constantly explaining to people, it's not actually as difficult and complicated as you think it is. And it shouldn't be a barrier to switching.
And I think I would say, as a business owner, it feels like it's hard to move many or any suppliers that you work with in the business because there's so much fear about even moving like marketing companies. You feel like, honestly, my first gut feeling is that current supplier is going to be a bit of a dickhead.
Yeah,
and they're going to clam up and they're going to disrupt my business. So that's my first fear, my panic, because there's a lot of companies out there that will do that. They'll just be extremely difficult and they'll make your life a nightmare. So that's like my first fear. My second fear is like the better the devil you know thing, and that's always a bit of a worry. But I think it is, I think it is massive. So I'm hoping today that we come out the other end of it with me feeling like, because the thing is, from your seat, like, it's great to hear from you because you just do this like month in, month out. You're onboarding clients away from other accountants, and it's a big step up in various other things. And I watch how you and your guys take that pain for them, so to speak.
There is a lot to do.
And there is pain, and there are difficult accountants, but actually you deal with it for them, which is interesting. And I think that's what if I was to make that push, that's what I would want to feel like. I couldn't get lost in this. I knew that somebody had my back. So it's interesting. Okay, so tell me why you think owners, first of all, think it's so hard, and why do they stay too long with the current accountant when they know that they should be moving?
I think some of the things you touched upon there about better the devil you know.
Yep.
Also, they don't have the information. Often the accountant has got a lot of information, data, knowledge stored, and some of that they might be worried is literally resides in the accountant's head. So
is that true? I hadn't thought about that.
In a lot of instances, yes. So, for example, in our practice, like we have all the legal documentation that we would hand over to somebody if they moved away from us, like the accounts, the records, things like that. But we also have, like our CRM system, we also have what we call it the client Bible.
Yeah.
It's where we note how do they process their invoices? Do they take deposits from their clients? Like all of this kind of miscellaneous information that you pick up over the years about your clients, we jot that down and we would not hand over that file. That's an internal file. So there is a small amount of information that could be lost. But what I would say is that if you're moving FD or FC, that's definitely a different process. If you move an accountant, then actually pretty much any accountant should just be able to pick up from a set of statutory accounts and your prior tax returns.
Okay. Fine.
So the best time to switch accountant, this is often something that comes up as well in terms of concern about, the right time to do it. And what I will say is there is no good or bad time to switch accountant.
Okay.
So if you're not happy with the accountant that you've got, if you don't think you're getting the service that you need or anything like that, then do not hesitate switching. There are a few things to consider. The main one comes down to how much work your current accountant has already done with you. So if you think in the normal world of accountants, most accountants are doing possibly your quarterly VAT return, payroll, things like that. But otherwise, the bulk of what you're paying them is for your year end. So a lot of people think I have to get my year end done and then I can switch accountants. But actually, I would say the cleanest time to move accountant is probably the first day of your year end, not once your accounts have been filed.
Right, okay.
Because that can be 9 months after.
So
that's almost another entire year with a crappy accountant that's potentially not giving you proactive advice, your business isn't growing, your profit's not growing, all because you've waited for them to file accounts.
Got you. So you can so if someone was to come to you at any time in the year, basically the message is that you can craft the solution that works.
100%.
Yeah. It's not you have to wait till the end of your year or anything like that.
No, you can literally switch at any point. The only real consideration just comes down to a cost perspective is a lot of accountants over the years have moved to putting people on a monthly retainer. So even if your accountant is only doing your year-end accounts, you still often pay them a monthly direct debit for it.
Okay.
So if you move halfway through the year, you've pretty much paid for half of your accounts already.
Okay, fine.
So that's the only real consideration.
I guess if the pain is painful enough and everything's crap enough, it's like it's sunk cost fallacy. It's like, get over it, because what's it costing you in decisions in your business that are growing your business and all the rest of that. So,
and in terms of people that are moving to us, often the main problem they've got is with their profit, their cash, their growth. They want those services right away. So we can start working with people partway through the year and we say, well, keep your other accountant. They can still do your year end and we'll move that over once all of that's tidied up. But we can get working on that FCFD stuff right away. Yeah,
the reporting stuff, and you can really move it. So actually, you can either do it all in one go. We could do some sort of phase thing that works as well. But either way, you can craft a strategy to make it work.
Absolutely.
Without disruption.
We have some clients that never move their year-end accounts to us because they've not had a problem with their year-end accountant. They're perfectly happy with them, but they just didn't offer FD services, which is why they've come to us. So, I think really think about what is it that you're trying to get out of moving accountants. Is it that you're not happy with your year-end? Is it that you're wanting FD services? Because you can split those things.
Some of the traditional accountants are a bit like insurance companies. They absolutely rely on the apathy of people to just continue to get shit, and it just carries on because of the pain of moving and all the rest of it. And I think, it's a bit like, people will just go with, that accountant's, it's a family friend. I might upset the family if I move away from the family accountant, or like the GP analogy, it's been the family GP for life and whatever else. And actually it just has to be the right horse for the right course. And that's all it is. It's a simple decision. And, we're talking to people. I mean, if you're a really small business, just moving to a better accountant is one thing, but if you're a business that's outgrown the compliance accountant, that is an easy conversation, because it's just like, that's just not the right fit for my business anymore. I need a different horse for a different course that I'm going on.
We've only ever lost one customer that we were sad about losing, let's put it that way. And I think a lot of other accountants are often the same. You don't lose your clients that you love and the service is going really great, because if the accountant, if one party's loving it, then I would say that also the customer is generally loving it, and so you're quite unlikely to move away. So of all of the customers that have left us, it's been because actually we're just not the right fit for each other. So that kind of comes into it, that giving notice to anybody is not pleasant, but actually in the grand scheme of things. And just to put a bit of perspective on this as well, you might be worried about giving notice to your accountant and thinking, it's their income, blah blah blah, especially if you've got a small company. But this is so common in the accountancy world that if pretty much every accountancy firm will have what we call practice software, which you put all your clients in there, it manages all the deadlines, make sure that you can't miss anything. And practice software, every single piece of practice software has some sort of onboarding process built into it. It's that common. So clients are just churning constantly and moving around constantly. So accountants are really used to handling this. And so, don't worry about having that conversation with them.
Great. So in the next section, can you tell me, and this will really give me confidence, like step by step, what exactly happens when I switch accountants?
Okay.
What's the process?
So if you were moving, I'll talk about what would happen if you move to profit cash growth. I can talk you through our process. It will be slightly different for every accountant, but fundamentally the process remains the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are moving to a chartered accountancy firm, and this is really important, if your accountant isn't following these steps, it's likely that they are not a chartered accountant and or are not registered with a professional body. Because all of the accountancy professional bodies are quite clear on the processes that you must go through to onboard a client. So we don't just do these because we want to, we do these because we have to as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing we do is we issue an engagement letter to the client. So they get a welcome email from us saying, this is the information that we need from you. Here's the engagement letter, which is essentially terms and conditions, just says, this is the services that you're buying from us. These are the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
So digital signature to sign on that. And we also send you a link to an AML check. And that just means that you need to upload your ID.
AML is?
Anti-money laundering. And it's a legal requirement that an accountant does this. So if an accountant isn't doing this, they're not legally compliant.
Okay.
So we cannot start work until we've got an engagement letter and AML.
Yeah.
Our engagement letter protects us from an insurance perspective. Our insurance isn't valid if we don't have that engagement letter. And the AML is a legal requirement.
Okay, so that seems very straightforward. I could read that and get that back to you pretty quickly. So that's
Absolutely.
Step one, nice and straightforward.
Yep.
And AML nowadays is done like really unobtrusively. Do you use software where you just send people a link on their phone, scan their face, scan their passport, and it's done?
And it's done.
Dead simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's done from the client's perspective. We obviously have
a lot more, but
some stuff in the background to do. But
we only care what the client. We only care what the clients think.
As long as you're not Nigel Farage or somebody like that, then from your perspective, it would be really easy. Okay, so we start with the engagement letter and the AML. Then the next step is to get access to your system. So if you've got Xero, QuickBooks, whatever your software is, you just simply log us in, and we do the rest.
I was just thinking it is worth highlighting at this point that if you are laundering money, don't change accountants because it's probably going to flag you.
100%.
Stay with your current accountant.
Yeah, because when you move it depends on how good your accountant is.
When they should be doing it periodically anyway on their current account.
When people move to us, the first thing we do is deep dive on their numbers. Yeah. And to be honest, we will have a look before as well. We would prefer to look at your numbers before you move to us, because if there's anything in there that we think are red flags, we're just not going to work with you.
Also, just like the reason you do those is, going back to that, making sure we're a good fit, isn't it? It's got to, the relationship has to be positive, has to work. So you have to, it's worth doing the prep before, and you do that's why you do the free financial health check with people, isn't it? Where you have a quick delve through the numbers, you give them some reasons and just show that there's some easy wins and some value that you can bring. So therefore it's a good fit, because if you can't bring value, it's not a good fit, is it? So
exactly. So you've signed an engagement letter, you've completed your AML, you've given us access to your software, and the final thing that you would need to do is to provide us with the contact details for your old accountant. Okay. And we, as an accountancy firm, will write to your existing accountant or your old accountant and ask them for what's called professional clearance. Yeah. This has got two purposes to it. Firstly, we say in a roundabout way, is there any reason that we shouldn't work with this client? I.e., are they doing money laundering? Are they doing anything that is of concern for you that you should share with us at this stage?
Okay.
So accountant to accountant, they do need to share that information with us. Yep. What your accountant cannot say is things like, oh, the client's really shit, they never pay us, or they don't do this, or we don't like them. It really is very matter of fact. Yeah. Can I legally work with this client?
Okay.
And providing that comes back as yes, then we also just send them a list of information that we need to hand it over. And that's normally things like access to your software if we haven't got it already and your accountant controls it. Yep. All your history around your tax returns, company accounts that have been submitted, anything outstanding. So if you've got any outstanding issues or inquiries or anything like that with HMRC, so they just send all of that over accountant to accountant.
Fine. So you picked up something. I just want to be super clear on this. So you're saying that me as the business owner, I don't have to change any of my software?
No.
Okay.
Well, look, we promote Xero because we think that is the right software. We think that Xero is the right software for the types of businesses that we're working with. So we will encourage people to move on to Xero when they move to PCG.
Okay.
Some practices...
Which in itself is that... Should I worry about that? Is that an easy thing to do?
Well, it wouldn't... Like, for example, I've just moved to you. You use a system called ClearBooks and we're now moving you on to Xero as well. What have you done for that?
Nothing.
There we go.
Well... Okay. So it's nothing for me to worry about. It's dead easy. And in fairness, your team then gave me some quick training on payroll, how to raise invoice and the basic things within it. It's such a simple... to be honest with you, you wouldn't be recommending it if the system wasn't better and simpler than the one I was using. So actually, you've just saved me a load of time. It's far more easier. Like, there's so much automation built into it. It's just a complete no-brainer not to move, which is why I guess you say that if you are on a QuickBooks or something like that, you'd probably say migrate over, because the business owner as well as you guys get productivity benefits out of it, therefore the output's much better. So no,
we're not going to force anybody to move software, and sometimes we will run with your current software. We've got customers that have got like specific ERP systems and things like that. So most accountants know they will not make you move software. There will be some accountants out there that will be quite upfront and say we only work with QuickBooks or we only work with Xero.
Yeah.
So just watch out for that. But you'll know that up front because they should include all of that in their quote to you.
So do you know, like, I know everyone's going to be different, but like realistically, how long does this take from like start to finish?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. If somebody requests professional clearance from us, we generally will turn that around in a couple of days because we're very organised. We have everything in a client folder. We just hand it over, job done.
Right.
The majority of accountancy practices, a lot of clients move because they simply can't get a response from their accountant. And as a client, if you can't get a response from your accountant, it's very unlikely that your new accountant is going to get a response from that accountant either.
Right.
So therein lies the problem, is that generally accountants, unfortunately, are not very good at communicating. An accountant cannot withhold professional clearance. So we are a registered chartered accountant and we have to abide by our professional body. We're chartered with CIMA, and CIMA are very, very clear that we cannot withhold professional clearance. We may have things in our terms and conditions that say that, for example, we can withhold certain things if our bills aren't paid, but we cannot prevent you from leaving us. We cannot unduly withhold information. We cannot prevent the lawful filing of tax returns and things like that. So, and you have the right to complain to our professional body if we do that, and they could take our license away. So if there's any issues like that, then we've had it with accountants where we just can't get a response from them. We just send them a shitty letter saying, look, this is who you're registered with. We will report you if you don't provide this information within the agreed timeline.
Okay.
And the accountant handles it.
Fine. You've answered my question, which was, that would be my biggest worry as a business owner. I'm moving accountants because I know my accountant shit. I know they don't respond. So like you say, shock horror, they're likely to be less likely to respond to someone that's taken their business off them. So what do you do? You've just answered the question about how you make that happen.
Sometimes we go to the client and we're like, look, we're not getting any response. If they've got a good relationship with the accountant, then normally they can give them a bit of a nudge and move things forward. All the time there is missing information.
Yeah.
So do not let that be a panic for you. Like, even if your accountant never responds to us, we have ways of getting that information.
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, there are statutory accounts filed with Companies House, so we can get them. We can get access to your software because we can write directly to the software provider, and we can also write to HMRC and ask them for more detailed records of information they hold.
So you have a bunch of solutions when you pick these things that you know how to get out of them quickly.
Because we have had some situations in the past where somebody moved to us because their accountant died.
Okay.
Well, it's a terrible, terrible situation. What do you do there? We have to piece together the information in the background. So,
You might have answered. I was going to ask you, of all the switches that you've done, can you give us some examples of like what the worst things happened or what the ones that went wrong were and why they went wrong?
Well, that one, because we had absolutely nothing. It was a one-man band. Yeah. Everything was paper. They didn't have an accounting system. And
so here's a good reason to also... Here's another reason to analyse your current accountant, isn't it, for risk itself, which is like, is your current accountant like on the brink of closing down? Are they a one-man band? All these things, especially if you're starting to push into 7 figures or above, then it's like, it's almost like in liability stage, let alone lack of quality data. So yeah, that's another thing to think about. Really interesting.
So often people are really scared. They're like, oh my God, my accountant's got so much information. How do I get it from them? And actually, you don't have to worry about that. Your new accountant should be doing that. And what I would say is, in this onboarding process, if your new accountant is not like, we will take care of all of this for you, you don't need to worry about it, I would be questioning whether you're moving to a good proactive accountant, or actually are they just trying to push the workload back on you again? Yeah. If they're trying to push this workload back on you, what else are they going to be pushing back on you?
So Can you tell me if there's any differences if I'm a 7-figure business? So let's say I'm particularly sizable. Let's say I turn over £5 million. How does this process you've described differ at all from if I was turning over £500,000? Is there anything more is it any more complex?
It isn't more complicated from a process perspective. We still follow exactly the same processes.
Okay.
The only area where we tend to have, what I would say is we tend to have to need some ongoing communication with the old accountant, because when you're like a 7-figure business, your accounts are a little bit more complicated. Like some of the balances in them are a bit bigger. You're more likely to have things like loans and liabilities. And if your prior accountant hasn't been very good at actually like properly understanding what's in the accounts and they're just kind of clicking buttons and filing and things like that, then we like to know what's in those numbers. Like when we look at a number, we're like, oh, that's made up of X, Y, and Z. If your prior accountant isn't like that, then we will push them for that information. And so there can be a bit of backwards and forwards dialogue, but again, that tends to happen in the background.
Yeah. So I wouldn't see that necessarily.
Not necessarily, no. The only time that we might then involve the business owner is if we cannot get to the bottom of something and we need to make some assumptions. Because whenever you need to make some assumptions about what might have happened historically, the business owner might have important information that they can unlock something for you. Or we say, look, we cannot get factual information around this. We think the best course is X, Y, and Z, but the risks are this.
Okay, so finally, let's say that I've got myself comfortable with the idea of changing accountants and the process involved and all the rest of it. How and when, and we touched on quite a few of these, so I think it's more of just a summarise of the stuff that's been scattered all over the place. But how do I know that it's time to change accountants? Like, what are the signals?
I think you have a gut feeling that you could be getting more information and they're not giving you what you need.
Right.
If you've got to, I'd say a lot of businesses plus 500k, but definitely if you're plus 1 million, you probably are like a unicorn for your accountancy firm. Most accountancy firms will deal with people that are sub 250k turnover. That would probably be like 90 to 95% of a traditional accountant's bread and butter.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in that sort of top 5% of like being a specialist one-off case for that accountant, that might be a sign that they're not the right accountant for you.
Yeah, so it's almost like you should be sat in business class with all the other business class passengers, but you're sat in economy.
Yeah. It's like if you were to go to a mastermind, are you going to go to the mastermind with where there's 100 people in the room and 95 of them have got, are sole traders and businesses turning over less than 250k?
I'd never thought about that. There is because they do say that we do a lot of coaching in masterminds, and we always say the criticism we have of a bad mastermind to a good one is always one where we're the smallest business in the room, and a bad one is always one where we're one of the biggest businesses in the room or one of the sharpest thinkers in the room, and we come away with the most when we're the smallest in the room, so to speak. And this is like, I've never thought about this. This is exactly the same in accountancy practice. Like when you're sat here and like your lowest client's turning over like £1 million and your biggest client's turning over 15 million, if you're a £1 million client, you're getting like all that knowledge and insight from your team dealing with the £15 million client. Like it's like they almost have like a crystal ball about what's ahead for you. So like I guess it works the same as like coaching with accounts. Whereas if you're sat in a business and you're the £1 million client around loads of sole traders and various other things, like you're not getting lifted up, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also about, the likely experience that you're going to have from a customer service perspective and like how their processes work and things like that. Because one of the things that we've really struggled with at Profit Cash Growth is getting practice software to work with our practice, because we're not doing tax returns and self-assessments and things like that. That's not our bread and butter. We're doing month-end processes and balance sheet reconciliations and reporting and forecasts. And that is not stuff that's built into accountancy practices workflows.
Yes. So
if your accountant, when their newsletter comes out to you, what's in the newsletter? Is it about tax or is it about growing your business? And what actually do you want your accountant to help you with? Yeah. So I would say that the processes are also likely to be a little bit clunky because they're only likely to be doing them for you and not the rest of their client base as well. So just from a customer service perspective, it's probably not going to be the best experience for you either.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that you talk to me a lot about is like when business owners, I see this, you doing this a lot with your clients, when business owners are making like really big decisions, they're always pulling you into the meeting. So I guess the question is, if you're making really big decisions in your business and you're not pulling your current accountant in because you don't think they add any value, that's probably another sign that you've outgrown them.
Yeah. And we notice that a lot when clients on board with us. Often they will be retrospectively telling us about things. In the first few months, we'll be like, oh my God, what's this going on? And we'll find out, and they're like, oh, that's X, Y, and Z. And we're like, okay, you absolutely
need to tell us about that,
tell us
to make sure you get the very best deal, the very best loan you get, because you've got all the tools here to make this better. And
and it's that transition. And that's one of the reasons every time we have a monthly meeting with the client now, we start off with saying, can you just give us a 5-minute update what's going on in the business?
Yeah.
Because just the amount of things that you hear and you're like, hang on a minute, we need to be involved in that, or we need to do some analysis for this, or watch out for X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think to summarise, I think what I've taken away from this conversation is you've made it feel like switching accountants is basically just a process. It's not some sort of crisis or something I need to worry about. There's just a process to be followed. It's very, very much the same every time. It's very straightforward. Yes. And it's just not something that I should particularly worry about, because all the bits of the puzzle are all there to happen. And it just happens all the time as well. I'm not the first person to ever do it.
Exactly, yeah. It shouldn't be something that you have to do. Yeah. And I think that's probably the main thing here, is that if you're getting from your accountant a long, long list of things that you need to do and information you need to provide and copies of this and copies of that and access to this, then I'd really think twice about whether that's the right accountant for you.
Okay. So a tiny, tiny short bit of disruption for a massive, massive benefit moving forward. They always say it's the cost of not making the change that is the most painful, that you don't recognise, because it's a hidden cost, because you don't see what good looks like until you make the switch. So great, thanks for that, Claire. I think I hope people find that really useful. Me with my business owner hat on, that would have made me feel like completely different about the whole process of what I built up in my mind about what that might look like. So really appreciate that and breaking it all down. And let's find out what's on this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra. So this week, Claire, let me tell you a story first that paints the picture of this one. So we were at Mastermind meeting probably a month ago, and a lady came up to me and she was talking about AI. She talked about ChatGPT at the time, and she said, I like ChatGPT, she said, but it's like overly nice to me, and it's a bit agreeable and all these kind of things and whatever else. And I said to her, well, I can fix that for you. You need to change your master prompt in the settings, and you need to tell it how you want it to be, and then it will change completely. And she was just like gobsmacked. She didn't know about this. So I thought, I best put this down as a Profit Cash Growth Extra, because I wonder how many more people don't know about this. And I think regardless of what AI LLM you use, I think they'll all have this. I don't know where it'll be in each of them, but in like ChatGPT or Claude, or it's somewhere in the settings. There's something, I think ChatGPT's menu is called personalization. And in there, there'll be something either called a master prompt or settings or something. And it's just a box. And in there, you can effectively give it what's called a master prompt. So you can basically kind of tell it how you want it to interact with you. You can tell it a bit about you, about the type of language you like, all that kind of thing. I thought, just to give you an example, I would tell you what my master prompt is that has worked really well for me, especially in ChatGPT, because that is too agreeable. So my prompt literally really simply says, be my ruthless mentor, challenge my assumptions, stress test everything. I need bulletproof thinking, not validation. And honestly, the difference, in fact, my AI now really pisses me off because it's just argumentative all the time. Like it will not blow any smoke up my arse. It's like,
do you want to hear something funny that happened to me with Claude this week?
Yeah.
I was trying to make a complaint to somebody about something, and I was like, can you just add this in and say, basically, I wanted to say that I'd followed their process from start to finish and that I was getting really annoyed and they just needed to resolve my problem.
Yeah.
Claude point blank refused to draft the email for me because when I prompted Claude, I said, they said I need to do this. I've done 1 and 2 and I can't be bothered to do number 3. Can you just say I've already done it? Point blank refused. It was like, we will not lie.
Okay.
And I even went into Claude and I was like,
AI with ethics. But that's it. Anthropic say because the guy that runs Anthropic is like, he left OpenAI because of their ethics. So that's why he did that.
So yeah, I told it and I was like, I don't care. They were like, this is a reputation risk, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I do not care. Just write this email for me. I haven't got time for this. And it was like, we will not. And it just refused to do it. Amazing. Will not write this email. So I went into ChatGPT and it did it without any questions at all.
Right, tells you.
And then I went back to Claude and I said, ChatGPT did this, and it gave me some sarky comment back. But
crazy. Right. Well, they are. So do that. Obviously, there's so many like personalizations and settings in there, but that's like the big one because it can just change the sort of tone and the way that it deals with it. So if you find your AI being too agreeable with you, and that's not helpful if you're a business owner trying to drive forward, then do change it. I mean, by all means, use my exact prompt. It will turn it into a little Hitler with you. I tell you, it really does. So thanks for joining us for another week's podcast. As always, if you feel like you might have outgrown your accountant, you might know exactly what that looks and feels like after this episode. Just drop Claire a note on LinkedIn or drop us a note, go to the website, book a discovery call there. That's where we do the finance health check bit to have a quick look and see where we can add some value. Please rate, review and subscribe to this podcast. And as always, if you can share this episode with any business owner friends. On this one, if you've got anybody you're talking to who, if they're slightly whinging about their accountant, just literally send this over to them. Because I think this obviously gives them everything they need not to be fearful about just pushing the button and making the change. And as always, we'll see you for another thrilling topic next week.